This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, baby, there he is. Let's get a border out of his face. There we go. We are ready and locked and loaded. Cam, how you doing, man? You feeling good this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. Free agency's always long days, so probably not as spriery. Is that the word? As I was yesterday, but you know we're going. I got a workout in this morning, and I'm trying to get flowing on a busy day.
All right. So far, what did you think of yesterday? I liked a lot. I know everybody's talking about offensive line, and we all know they need offensive line. And, you know, I saw Jensen come off the board, and then I saw your Tennessee guy, Ben Jones, come off the board because those were the top two centers that I wanted.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we're still waiting. Armstead hasn't made a decision yet, so still waiting. Okay, we know that. So, outside of that, talk to me about the moves yesterday. What did you like? What you didn't like? What do you think?
Well, first, I heard you guys coming in on the concert talk. I have to tell you, Red Rocks is my favorite venue to listen in.
Oh,
Denver.
yes, you're right. I've been
great acoustics, great outdoor area. So I heard you guys on there. So I'll chime in my thoughts there. I live there.
Yeah, but that's not an arena. That's the
not an arena. It's not an arena, but it's an atmosphere.
And you are correct. I went and saw Greta Van Fleet there 2 years ago, 2 nights in a row. And I saw Primus and Mastodon there also. And that's another one of those places that if I have a band that I love, I will get on a plane, fly over there, and fly back just to go see a concert at Red Rocks. I am with you there. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So free agency, what everybody wants to hear. I thought that I love the fact they got Emmanuel Ogbah off the bat. I thought that was a move where he, like, I'll tell you, like, for sure, going into Monday morning, there was a feel that he was going to go to free agency, and things started to ramp up. There was changes in offers. The Dolphins wanted to close the deal, and they got that done with Emmanuel Ogbah and really showed him they valued him. He didn't want to go anywhere, but he was prepared to potentially test the waters. I know Buffalo had some interest, you know, Baltimore, Indy, a few teams that were contenders, and he decided to stay, and he got a big bag for it. You know, he didn't take any necessarily hometown discount, you know, 4 for $65 and 32 guaranteed. He got his bag. So that was really good. You know, I think a lot of times we talk about
well deserved,
dude. Now back-to-back 9-sack seasons, 30 batted balls in the last 2 years. People don't really talk about that, but he has more batted balls than any defensive lineman, anybody in the league. So he's the king of the swatted pass. But I love that for Ogbah and for the pass rush, but also because of the locker room. A lot of times in free agency, the Dolphins have been victims of this in the past. You go out and sign some big name guy off the street, and he's the highest paid dude in the room, and everybody else who's been working in the locker room is like, why are you taking care of the outside folks before you take care of us? So Ogbah's a guy they love in that locker room, and you're able to take care of him. That's going to go well from everybody in that room. So that was the first thing for me.
By the way, that goes with Duke Riley too now that they added that this morning.
Right.
So you took care of one of your core special teams guys, backup linebackers. And let me tell you something. It's kind of a little under the radar signing. I like Duke Riley. I thought that was a nice little addition last year. He made his own impact throughout the year.
Yeah, he's a really, really good special teams player, good depth guy at inside backer. They don't have any inside backers on the roster other than Jerome Baker, so they needed that depth. He's not going to be a guy who's going to start, but core special teams guy, which is important, depth, and like you said, a great locker room guy. So those are important signings.
And how do you not love a guy that proposes at Rolling Loud? I mean, come on, bro.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. It's somebody that warms Miami fans' hearts, I'm sure. So and outside of that, though, there wasn't the big splash move on day one, but it's only day one. I would caution fans. You talked about offensive line early. I still expect them to get a tackle probably today or tomorrow. Teron Armstead's market has been slowed up. He's trying to make a decision. I think he has some desire to go back to the Saints. The Saints are holding things up because they're trying to figure out what's going on with Deshaun Watson. So I wouldn't be surprised if Teron waits until that gets settled before he makes a decision, and that could.
But that's kind of a catch-22, right, Doggy? Because money dries up,
Yep.
And then you're stuck with, oh no, now I'm forced to go back to the Saints because now the teams that I wanted to go to are starting to use up that cap space. So that's kind of a catch-22. If there's a team he really likes outside of the Saints, he better make that decision quickly.
Right. And that's what he and his agent have to balance, right? They have to say, hey, how badly do you really want to wait for the Saints versus taking this offer that we have sitting on the table? Because there are offers for him sitting on the table right now. There are teams who made him offers. And so you're just sitting there and you say, okay, we can wait. And all of a sudden that team is going to be like, well, we'll just go get Trent Brown instead and not wait because we don't want to miss out. So that is a delicate balance. But that's what's holding up the tackle market. And if I had to pick, I think the Dolphins will sign a tackle over anything else. And don't rule them out for still signing another interior offensive lineman, but it may be second or third wave. Maybe that sort of guy, compare it with a tackle. But of the guys,
if it is an Armstead, who else do you?
So Trent Brown's the guy to watch. I don't know
if he fits. I don't know if he fits.
He's a big dude. You got to see if he's moving in the zone scheme, but he would be the number 2 tackle on the board. Okay. But I definitely keep an eye on La'el Collins. I think that he's a guy who we've talked about him, or we haven't, but I'm sure you guys have talked about the trade talks with him. I'm hearing that it's more likely at this point that he gets released and hits the market. So then that becomes a little bit of a bidding war. He becomes a new guy on that market, and the Dolphins definitely have interest in him. So he could be a guy that fits in that right tackle spot. Remember, Tua's left-handed, so that's protecting his blind side. So that would be another guy I would definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah, that one I can see becoming, but the problem with him is he has so much baggage that it's kind of one of those things that you don't really want to give a lot because you also got to give him a contract. So I think teams are going to wait for the Cowboys, who are cap strapped, and they still made moves yesterday they re-signed one of their receivers and everything. So they're using up the little space they have. At one point or another, they're going to have to free up space in order to do the rest of their business. And I think the league knows that. And so I think they're kind of waiting. What is it? Connor McGovern, also the other guy that might be up for free agency? Is it or is
Connor Williams in Dallas is a free agent?
Right, right. Connor Williams,
yes, free agent as well. He's a guard, but he is a free agent as well. You saw obviously Miami getting a Dallas receiver yesterday in Cedric Wilson. They were also interested in Amari Cooper. Maybe they got a love affair with Dallas offensive players, with Collins as well. So yeah, he definitely could be a guy to watch. But to go back, I guess, to your original question, I did like the move to get Chase Edmonds. I think that we've all talked about running back there. Now, I want to caution Miami fans. This isn't going to be a guy who carries the ball 25 times a game. That's not his skill set, but he is a playmaker. He's a guy who's going to be used in the receiving game and in the running game, and he's going to be a really good fit for that wide zone scheme. Averaged over 5 yards a carry, explosive in the open field. I think the Dolphins are going to love using him as a playmaker. So pair him with Myles Gaskin. Maybe you bring back one of Duke Johnson and Phillip Lindsay, and maybe draft someone on day 2 or 3. And I think you got a good 3 or 4 man rotation in that running back field that should be noticeably better than it was last year. So that's a good move there. Teddy Bridgewater, I know that's your guy.
I love it. I love the move.
I love the move too, and I don't want everybody the natural reaction when anybody signs a quarterback is, oh, this guy's going to take Tua's job. That's not the case here. He's a clear backup here. But let's be real. Tua has had, issues staying healthy. So you have to get somebody who can
Teddy. So does Teddy, by the way. So.
Right. But they're very similar, and obviously Teddy's done it for 6 or 7 years, so he's more established in who he is, whereas Tua is still growing. But they're very similar in skill sets, whereas they're both smaller quarterbacks who are very accurate, maybe not necessarily the biggest arm, but they're very accurate. Both of them are in the top 10 in active quarterbacks and completion percentage. And both of them, like you said, have had injury issues. So if you're forming a new system, it's always good to have your backup to be similar in skill set as your starter. So if you have to spot him in a couple games, there's no real drop off. So that's another move that I like. And Cedric Wilson was the other one where a lot of people didn't know who Cedric Wilson was, but he's a guy who was trending upward in a deep Dallas receiving room with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and he was a number 4 guy, but he's a big slot. He's used as a big slot there. He can play outside. He has good run after catch ability, a little sneaky speed. So I think that he's going to be a guy that fills in to be that third or fourth receiving weapon behind Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, maybe Devontae Parker, and you get another versatile guy there. So I think they were solid signings, no real splash, but I think a lot of times when you see the splash in free agency, you get disappointed, So I think that you'll see an offensive line splash today or tomorrow, but I think the moves they made so far have been impressive, and you'll continue to see teams release people in the days ahead and expect the Dolphins to kind of have interest in there. I just saw Miles Jack was released by the Jaguars. Right. The Dolphins still need it.
Keon Crossman, do you know anything about the special teamer?
I don't know much about him. I know he had been a core guy in New York for them. I think that the most immediate thing Dolphins should know there is that probably makes a guy like Clayton Fejedelem, who they signed a year or two in free agency, probably expendable. So you only needed so many core special teams guys who don't really play much defense. And so they may view this as an upgrade over him. That's the immediate trade-off I see there. But this is a guy who's probably going to play all four special teams. You don't want him to play a lot of defense. He's a cornerback in nature, so maybe he ends up being your fifth cornerback, right. And maybe that takes a roster spot from someone else, but he's not going to be playing much on defense. He's core special.
In other words, they think Crossman is less of a liability on defense than Fejedelem is.
Probably. That's probably what it is. If we're in a dire situation, we would most rather have him along with his special teams ability than Fejedelem. So he's still on the roster. So, not saying for sure they don't find a way, but that was the immediate reaction I had to it, that Fejedelem's coming up. I think he's about $3 million they could save on the cap by releasing him. So that wouldn't be a surprise to see going forward.
Yeah, they swung the money over, basically, is what they end up doing. All right. Overall, Chase Edmonds, do you think that we talked about it? It's going to be a committee thing, but I wanted to follow up on it. Let's remind folks that it's always going to be a committee thing, because that's the Shanahan approach. It's kind of been like that all the way through the old man, who always had a revolving door of running backs, never really depended on one guy. From one year to another, he could switch up, or eventually they evolved into having multiple backs always.
From one year to another, from one game to another, from one series to another, they do not have favorites. And I think about the 49ers last year as an example. They had two vets in the building with Raheem Morris and Jeff Wilson coming in, and all of a sudden
and the Atlanta guy, yeah,
they had the Atlanta guy as well. Yes, I'm trying to think what was his name.
They just re-signed him, dude. Damn it. Anyway, we know who it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they had all these vets, and then they went and draft Trey Sermon, and they went and draft Elijah Mitchell, and everybody was like, okay, well, Trey Sermon's eventually going to take this job. Well, it was Elijah Mitchell, their 6th-round pick, who ended up being the lead back throughout most of the year. Trust me, I know he helped me win one of my fantasy leagues. And so it shows them that they could spend money at a position. They could spend a mid-round draft pick at a position, and still, if the 6th-round pick outplays you, they're going to play that. So they like to get 4 or 5 guys in and rotate it. So for folks who think, oh, maybe we're still going to get a 1st-round or 2nd-round running back, I wouldn't count on it. That's not the Shanahan way. I still think they're going to do something maybe later day 2 or like in day 3 area and see how that works with the rotation. So like you said, Chase Edmonds is penciled in as the lead back. He's probably the favorite as of now to get the most carries. But like you mentioned, the Shanahan system is multi-back, and it's hard to really predict exactly the flow and workload of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you, Ryan. He nailed it. Tevin Coleman is the guy we were looking at. By the way, Cordarrelle Patterson, I did not see him sign yesterday. Could we see Miami? Do you hear of any interest for Miami in Cordarrelle Patterson? Because thinking of Chase Edmonds, Chase can do a lot of those things too, because he's very multifaceted. Unless you play fantasy, you probably don't know Chase Edmonds on the East Coast. Right. But if you play fantasy, you probably went and got him and used him a couple times, and you were like, hey, man, this guy isn't bad if you watched him. I think if you can't get a Cordarrelle Patterson, maybe a Chase Edmonds, they try to do a lot of those versatile things with him.
Yeah, Chase Edmonds is going to fill that role for them. I don't see them in the Cordarrelle Patterson market. I think that he's going to go elsewhere. I don't believe they're going to spend another significant investment in a running back this offseason. I think it'll be Chase and a rookie. But Cordell Patterson is, like you mentioned, a guy who was used as a running back, as a receiver, special teams guy. Chase probably not as much as special teams, but he will definitely be used as a receiver in the backfield. I wouldn't be shocked to see him used out on his slot. He was used as an actual receiver at times. So you're going to use that type of playmaker that can be versatile in several different ways and allow Mike McDaniel to be super creative as a play caller.
All right, you talked about 2 tackles. Who are the guards? Give me 2 or 3 guards that Miami could still. Is there a center left? Because I didn't like, after Ben Jones was gone, I was like, yeah, the drop off started to get a little shady, a little gray area too much for me. You know what I mean? When I looked at Jensen and Jones, I was like, that's stud material for Tua right there at the to be their center. So give me a couple guards, and is there a center out there that we still could be looking at?
Yeah, the center market, I mean, is Bradley Bozeman's probably the top guy still available there from the Ravens. He's probably going to get a nice salary, $8 to $10 million from what I'm hearing. I don't think the Dolphins have a ton of interest there. Unless maybe his price changes and they get there, but I don't see them interested in that market. James Daniels is another guy, came from Chicago, played guard and center. But I haven't heard much Miami connected there. It doesn't mean they're not in. I just haven't heard it. So those are probably the 2 centers that are top of the market. Maybe there's guys in the middle or low end that the Dolphins get in and maybe have them compete with the Michael Dieter and see who wins that job, or a rookie draft pick like a Zion Johnson or from BC or Alec Lindstrom. Those are 2 guys who, the new O-line coach Matt Applebaum has coached. So I could see that as an option as well if they don't get a center there. And the guard market, I think the market really took a big dip this past day. I mean, Laken Tomlinson was a guy they definitely were interested in. I don't know if I have a name for you that I could tell you, hey, this is a guy they're definitely interested in at the guard market at this point. This may also be a 2nd or 3rd wave deal for the Dolphins as far as the guard, and say, hey, this is another guy who can compete with a Austin Jackson, compete with a Solomon Kinley, or if they move Eichenberg inside for whatever reason, compete with that guy, where it's not a bona fide guy, but you get a vet if for some reason the rookies don't progress that you can lean on. So that would be something that I would look out for, but maybe not today. Maybe that's more of a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday move. I'd say tackle is something that's probably more of a priority at this point.
Follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolf, and catch his work there at the NFL Network all day long, baby. He will be there and ready to report, and we'll see if the Dolphins make some moves today here, and I'm sure you'll see Cam doing his thing at the NFL Network. Cam, thank you for taking some time.
All day. 11 to 7. I'm about to go put my suit on, so tune in. I'll see y'all.
You got it, baby, and we'll see you on Friday. Be good.
All right, now.
Thank you. There you go. Cameron Wolf with our KSDT, Miami Dolphins, and NFL report.
This is the Big O Show.